It's safe to say that the past decade or so hasn't been kind to McLaren, with the team not having a winning driver since 2008. Add to this the fact that they haven't competed in the Constructors' Championship for more than 2 decades, and also that longtime rivals Ferrari look super competitive this year. The future doesn't look great. Today we are discussing if McLaren can keep up with Ferrari. Stay with us. First up, what's the current situation? Let's see. Well, this season has so far played out similar to recent form, with McLaren struggling. They do, however, have one of the brightest young things in their sport driving for them in the form of Lando Norris. The British driver is currently sitting in 7th position in the drivers' standings, regularly finishing in the points this season. However, he has failed to challenge the upper echelons given the fact that he is driving an inferior car. It doesn't help that his teammate Daniel Ricciardo has failed to pull his weight and is currently in a disappointing 12th position in the championship with just 19 points. For someone of his experience, Norris and McLaren might have hoped for a slightly better showing. On the other hand, 2022 has been much brighter for Ferrari, who sits 2nd in the Constructors' Championship and also have Charles Leclerc making a push for the driver's title. The Monaco man is currently in 2nd position with a haul of 170 points so far and is well within reach of defending champion Max Verstappen, who sits 1st with 233 points. It has also been an impressive season so far for Leclerc's teammate, Carlos Sainz, who currently occupies 4th position with a tally of 144 points. All this points to the fact that McLaren have some way to go to make up the current gulf between the two teams. Next up, we're looking at why McLaren imploded last season against the Italians. At one point last season, it looked as though McLaren could be set to overtake their longtime rivals, but a string of disappointing results in the second half of the season saw to it that they finished 4th behind their rivals in 3rd. They only took 22 points from their last 4 races to completely implode. But what was behind their slump? Ferrari introduced an upgraded hybrid system in the second half of the season, whilst McLaren simply stagnated. At the time, Andres Seidel said, "It is clear to see that with the upgrade on the power unit, they made a good step forward." But McLaren themselves didn't update their car. Over the first half of the season last year, McLaren scored a point more per race than their rivals, but in the last 4 races they averaged just 5.5 points per race. Ferrari, on the other hand, rallied to increase their points haul average from 14.4 to 17.75. A couple of factors came into play here. McLaren simply stopped overachieving, which they had been doing for the first half of the season, whilst Ferrari began taking advantage of mistakes by other drivers. Once the tracks, which were more friendly toward McLaren, had passed, Ferrari simply capitalized, with Seidel saying, "It is clear that on certain tracks, our car was a lot stronger, but what we didn't manage now is simply to score the points that were on the table for us." And that's obviously disappointing. What did you make of McLaren's performance last year? Could McLaren be set to disappear into the pack? Stay tuned. Whilst Ferrari are clearly the second best team in this year's Constructors' standings, McLaren face the very real possibility of simply becoming just another team in the midfield. They had been in 4th position for a while, but recently slipped to 5th position after being overtaken by Alpine. McLaren are currently in a group of 4 constructors, separated by less than 60 points, which include Alpine, Alfa Romeo, and Haas. These 4, as well as AlphaTauri, are covered by less than 0.5% on average outright pace, which means McLaren has failed to stand head and shoulders above the crowd. If this continues, they will have no chance of hunting Ferrari down. And Seidel was recently asked if he now felt McLaren were established as the 4th best F1 team, to which he dignified the question by saying, "I wouldn't say fully comfortable, because we are up against strong competition with strong drivers and strong cars, and therefore the pecking order can still change depending on different tracks, different conditions, tire selection." He went on to explain that they do have a clear target of finishing 4th though, suggesting that they have what it takes to do so. This mentality is in stark contrast to their years of dominance, when they would be expecting to finish 1st year in, year out. And if this mentality has spread throughout the whole team, McLaren stand very little chance of catching Ferrari. What do you make of Seidel's comments? We're looking back at Daniel Ricciardo's comments earlier this year now. Stay with us. Speaking earlier this season after the team's poor start, Aussie driver Daniel Ricciardo claimed that he wouldn't be surprised if his team won a race this season. By that point, after the Australian, Ferrari had already bagged more than 100 points, as opposed to McLaren's 22, and straight after, at Emilia-Romagna, his predictions seemed to carry a bit more weight, as the team bagged an impressive 22 points, largely down to Lando Norris' impressive third-place finish. However, since Ricciardo's prediction, the team have put in what can only really be described as a pitiful performance, taking just 43 points in 8 races. At the time, Ricciardo's comments were seen as an expression of the belief he had in his team, but now, looking back, could possibly have been posturing to help deflect attention from his own poor form. Quite simply, McLaren have flattered to deceive this year, and with the Ferrari in much better shape, they could be set for an extended time in the wilderness. Ferrari look much better equipped to have a proper run at the title than McLaren do right now, and seem to have learned lessons from last season. The car is balanced and versatile, and the engine is, well, quite simply, much more powerful than the McLaren. Some have suggested that for McLaren to really get back to where they belong and to consistently challenge Ferrari and the other big boys, they need to make changes throughout the entire team. What do you guys think? Next up, Ferrari have suggested they are serious contenders for this year's crown. Stay tuned. Ferrari's challenge seems to have taken a bit of a beating in recent weeks, as engine problems and mistakes in the garage, as well as the cockpit, have threatened to completely derail Charles Leclerc's title challenge. However, team principal Mattia Binotto isn't throwing in the towel just yet, claiming that his team are focusing on winning every remaining race. I mean, if they could pull that off, it would be one of the craziest ends to a season since, well, last season. Binotto said after last weekend, "What we are focused on is trying to go to each single race and get the maximum results from it. It didn't happen here in Paul Ricard, but I think we're already focused on Hungary and going there for a 1-2. Binotto then went on to explain that there are the same amount of points available for every race, so at the end of the season, we will do the sums and let's see where we are. He then explained that the potential for a run at the title is huge, saying, "I think what's more important to see is the good package. There is no reason why not to win 10 races from now to the end." Binotto then suggested that all they could do is stay positive, and why not? They're still in a decent position, and as we know, anything can happen, especially at this stage with 10 races to go. Who do you guys think will win this season's championship? And finally, Lando Norris has been speaking after the French. Having finished 17th in France last time out, Lando Norris has revealed how pleased he was with his run. McLaren were running some upgrades last weekend, and Norris said, "I think there's still a lot of positives. It's helped the car, it's moved it in the right direction." However, he explained that the balance he seemed to have in the car on Saturday in qualifying didn't appear to be there in the race itself, but he did concede that the upgrades were working, and we'd have been a lot slower if we didn't have the upgrades. After being overtaken early on by Alonso, Norris couldn't quite gather the pace to hunt him down, and with his teammate Esteban Ocon coming in 8th, Alpine moved ahead of McLaren in the constructors. However, Daniel Ricciardo managed back-to-back points finishes for the first time this season, which McLaren can certainly look upon as a positive. What do you guys make of Alpine overtaking McLaren in the Constructors' Championship last weekend? Let us know below. As usual, thanks for joining us today, and remember to stop by again next time when we will be reviewing all sorts of other cool bits and pieces. And why not do us a favor by liking today's video, whilst also sharing it with any McLaren or Ferrari fans you might know of. Bye guys!